just getting the mirror.
I'm definitely getting you.
What?
Oh yeah.
Now you are.
No, it was the whole time.
Hey guys, wow, what a year it has been. Last year we sold our home in June of 2020 and we had hopes to build our forever home on this property, and things didn't work out the way that we had planned. So we moved in with my parents for a couple months while we figured our lives out. And with that, we tossed around idea after idea, and it felt like we were hitting wall after wall after wall, and nothing was going right. Lumber prices really just put a damper on building our home, and we decided to wait a little while. We bought a mobile home and we moved it onto the property, knowing that this would allow us the opportunity to stay right here even when we do get to build our forever home. And we won't have to rent, we won't have to buy another house and deal with selling another house. This can be our forever home. So we were able to move onto the property full-time in November of 2020. And even though we weren't living on this property last summer, we still had a small garden in ground that we tended to. We brought water to and from the property, and it was a lot of work, and we really did reap what we sowed, and the garden came out beautiful. We have still been eating from the garden up until just a few weeks ago, where when we ate our last onion, we still have things that we canned and preserved. But we're really looking forward to this year's garden, and what a season it has been so far. We started the year knowing that it was going to be a really busy year. This is the year where everything happens all at once, where we're growing a garden and we're building a homestead and we're bringing new animals to the farm, and we knew that we had so many goals and dreams and plans. And so knowing that lumber prices were sky high and just unaffordable for us right now, we took the plunge and we bought a sawmill. Neither of us had ever really even been around a sawmill, let alone run a sawmill. But Luke has done such an amazing job working on that sawmill. He's put in hours and hours of hard work, and it's been a really great investment for us. Lucas milled out these beautiful boards for the raised beds that you can see behind me, and after he did that, we spent a day, probably a couple days, building the beds and putting them all together. We researched a method called hugelkultur that requires you to use birch in your raised beds. You just layer birch on the bottom, and over time the birch breaks down and it really adds nutrients and richness to the soil. And so Lucas spent a day cutting down birch trees, and Haven and I went along behind him and collected the birch trees with the tractor and put them in each raised bed, knowing that with time the birch will break down and worms will really enjoy that environment, and our plants will flourish in the richness that the good bacteria brings to the soil. So the next step to building this beautiful raised bed garden was to find organic compost, and compost in general has been really difficult to find this year. People are growing their own food, and it is awesome to see, and they're realizing the importance of becoming self-sustainable and wanting to provide for their own families and to know where their food comes from. And it is an amazing movement that we're seeing, people starting to become homesteaders, and it's a dream that we've had for a really long time, and we've had gardens, we've preserved food, we've provided for ourselves, but now we want to grow, and we want animals, and we want our own dairy, and we want to raise our own meat, and we're getting there, and it's going to be a really exciting year for us. So we found organic compost a couple hours away from us, and this might seem like a long drive to some people, but we live in an area where you drive an hour to get to the closest Tractor Supply store. There are so many stores just out of our typical reach. The trip where we get up early and we leave at 5 a.m. and we're home by 9 or 10 in the morning, those are long gone for Luke and I, because our kids are really important to us, and taking Haven along with us makes it feel more like a family day. So we made the most of it, and when we got home, we were in a rainstorm. We unloaded the compost so that we could get the trailer back to the gentleman that we rented it from. There is a gentleman here in town that rents out a dump trailer, and it was nice to be able to rent that rather than thinking that we needed to purchase our own for trips that we might make only 1 or 2 times a year. So then we spent time together filling each raised bed with the compost. We were a little bit disappointed in the appearance of the compost. It is less composted than we expected it to be. There are parts of hay in it, which may cause problems with weeds throughout the summer. So we're really going to have to be on top of the weed situation in our raised bed gardens. So Memorial Day weekend in Maine is the weekend that gardeners get their gardens in, and we spent the weekend doing just that. We had been hardening off our tomatoes and our peppers. Our onions had gone in our ground garden several weeks ago. We were able to plant almost all of our whole garden on Memorial Day weekend. This is the time when you're pretty much safe from frost. We've been having beautiful weather, close to 80 degrees. In July and August we might have a couple 90-degree days, but really we stay right around 80 degrees throughout the summertime. So in our raised bed gardens we have beets, peas, carrots, kohlrabi. We've planted a few herbs like dill. We use it for a lot of our pickling recipes. It's also really great to deter bugs from the garden that you might not want in there. We've also planted our tomato plants and our pepper plants. We have salad greens like lettuce, spinach, kale, and Swiss chard, and we're really looking forward to watching the garden grow this season. So even though there have been bumps along the road this year, it has been such an awesome season of waiting and learning patience and making plans and watching your plans fall apart, because we're not the one that makes the best plans. So we hope that you'll tag along and you'll watch with us as we watch our dreams unfold, as we show you guys around and we bring home new animals and we grow our farm family and we process our own meat and we preserve our own foods, and hopefully learn something along the way, and maybe you guys will too. It's been awesome talking with you guys today, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. Go lay down. Go lay down. Avery, lay down. Avery.
Uh-oh. I'm seeing